So we at the Skin Deep create experiences that make you rethink how you connect with others. And the and is our first experience that we created. And in creating that, we had an idea of oftentimes couples don't like to talk about conflict. But in that conflict is often opportunities for greater intimacy and connection. You know, it's that conversation that you don't want to talk about because it'll blow up in your face. But actually, if we create the environment and the space for us to have that conversation, they'll connect better. The relationship will deepen. And as an audience, if we watch a variety of these relationships, a variety of these conversations, maybe we can create the space for the viewer to create the space in their own life to deepen their own relationships. For this project, we take anybody that's willing to come on and be honest and have a conversation and ask each other questions.
Didn't understand.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Get over it.
Fuck you.
I loved you.
I feel like you just kind of copped out of the question.
That's a loaded one.
What we've done here is taken the interviewer out of the equation. And it's really interviewee asking interviewee. So there's no, all we control is really the environment that we create. And then we allow people to have a conversation. And we facilitate that conversation with the questions that we place. And what we've discovered is that every couple has its story, their story. Every couple has their language, their planet that they live on. And if you ask the right questions, you can find the emotional story that's compelling for someone else to watch. If you ask the right questions, you can enter their world.
By looking at such a diverse group of couples, as long as they were connected, whatever their and was, whatever it was that brought them together, we called them a couple. So you have transgendered couples, you have dominatrix, you have polyamorous couples, you have very straightforward high school kids. And we don't look at them as an identity. We look at them as people in a relationship. And when we construct each documentary for you, you're seeing them out of context. So you're not seeing them as a transgendered couple. You're seeing them as someone who's going to talk about this particular aspect of love that we think relates to you based on the way you answer questions. And it gives you the opportunity to gain insight from people out of context and in a way that normally in your everyday life you might not be open to. So maybe I'm not going to seek out the relationship advice from someone who has multiple partners. But in this context, all of a sudden it shows up and I'm like, oh my God, that is exactly how I feel.
Well, for me as a storyteller, as a communicator, oftentimes I think and filmmakers get stuck in, I tell stories this way. It's a 90-minute movie. The images follow in this sequence. Or it's a short film, the images fall in this sequence. And as a communicator, why am I spending time why am I limiting myself to one language?
I think we have a responsibility now to think of the hero of our story as the person who is viewing it, right? You buy a ticket to the show and you're still the star of the show. The challenge with that is it's easy to kind of mandate a certain type of experience. If you go through a video game, there's choice, but ultimately you're still traveling along a devised arc. What's cool about the and is that you're making choices and they're based on emotion. And it really makes you feel something. And I think the challenge and kind of opportunity of this project and what we succeeded at was making something that doesn't feel like a digital product at all. It feels really human. And that's from the content, the way it was filmed, who's in it, but also the way we tagged the content. Was all intended to make you kind of search for meaning and feel like you were having a conversation with a human. I think this project was derived from not us as an individual, but very much from the whole team. And I've certainly learned a ton. And also just like figuring out how to get out of the way of the content and let it kind of manifest itself. Even the developers, I think, who worked on this were like, we asked them to do things incorrectly because I think we'd figured out that something was needed. Because we didn't want a great website, we wanted a great experience, right? We didn't want necessarily a perfect arc for the film from an editor. We wanted things cut in a certain way so that they would come together for this unique experience. So everybody kind of was challenged to do the wrong thing for the right reason.
I think the paradigm shift is that normally it's what's the story I want to tell? And here the question is, that's not the question. The question is, what's the experience I want the user to have? And when you think about that, you have to approach the story in a different way.
I think for Topaz and I, this has been a really kind of interesting collaboration. We're friends. We've worked on projects together. But this really was a long road that was full of a lot of learning, I think, for both of us. I think a collaboration, you have to have similar goals and a common vocabulary. And combining the world of film with interactivity, with emotion, with logical thinking, working with developers, working with these couples, working with producers, working with audiences, and finding a way that all of these people could come together around ultimately this like pure human commonality, which is we're relationships. It's all about relationships. I think we took a lot away. We never talk now as friends anymore. We're like the Metallica of the interactive documentary world.